Bless up for tuning in to Project Cheney. Magic happens when you question everything. Conspirituality becomes reality, weirdness is welcomed, and it's okay to change your mind. Big up yourself.
Hey you guys, welcome to another episode of Project Cheney. As always, I'm your host Cheney, and as always, this part is the most awkward part of the whole show for me to do. I'm going to get better at it, and talking to you guys alone is just going to become a normal part of my life. And I know there's a lot of people in my life that are listening to this like, I talk to this bitch all the time and she has no problem finding her words. But it does feel extra vulnerable when it's just me sitting here with you. And since we're going to be hanging out so much, and part of my journey is to try to be honest and authentic, I feel like you should know that. So welcome to my little bit of awkwardness. This is my second episode. I am going to be lucky enough to sit down with 1/3 of one of my favorite podcasts. It's the Truthzilla Podcast. If you have not listened to the Truthzilla Podcast, you are totally missing out. It has 3 members, Megan and Ed, and then I will be sitting down with Scott today. One of the things I love so much about Truthzilla is it's really important for me that people are putting actions behind their words. We live in a world of internet trolls and of big talkers and of, people that are putting down other people. Like, you don't meme as much as me. You don't write as many comments. Your comma's in the wrong place. And it's like, yeah, but have you been down to your city hall? Have you gone down and seen what the mask mandates were for your kids at their school? Have you gone and fought for your neighbor to open their business? I think there's levels to this game, and I think Truthzilla is kind of matching things on all sorts of levels that I just have a shit ton of respect for. And not that I don't have any respect for people making mad ass memes, because am I allowed to say, is it memes? Is that even the right word anymore? I'm like, I feel like one of my nieces is going to write me and be like, tell me some cool kid word for it. Yeah, I think there's power in that too. I think it's important to get information out there any way you can. But I also think it's really, really, really important to take a fucking part in your community, and maybe even build a community. Maybe have a little bit of healthy ego sometimes, and knowing that you have the proper information to stand on a soapbox and be vulnerable enough because it's right and you stand for truth. And damn, yeah, I kind of love Truthzilla like that. And I really like Scott like that. And I love his journey and how he got here. And I kind of love his self-redemption and his self-reflection and what he teaches me about that. One of my favorite parts of this interview that I didn't really anticipate for it to go there is we end up talking a lot about the 12 steps. And I realized how naive I was for a person that can tell you, most of the old symbols on half the pyramids around the world and what ancient civilization they're connected to. But I really could not tell you one of the 12 steps in the order that it was supposed to be there. So yeah, I want to blow my mind in all sorts of ways, and I'm glad the conversation went there, and it became a little more spiritual and a little woo-woo, and I really loved it, and I really love that Scott hung out with me. I'm glad he was just really honest about his journey, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. I think I'm going to call it the 13th step with Scott from Truthzilla. Welcome, Scott from Truthzilla, to
What's up?
Project Cheney. And I'm so excited
Woo!
to have you here.
Oh, dude, this is amazing. Like, we've chatted a couple times and, we've been going back and forth on the social medias for a while. I love the new backdrop there. I know probably people listening can't see it, but she's full in effect. Project Cheney mode there with the graffiti tag in the back. That's so cool. But no, it really is an honor to be here, Cheney. I know that you're starting this new project, and the fact that you reached out to me individually to come on the show and chat means a lot. That's awesome.
Oh, that's really, one of the things that I love so much about you, and I feel it come on other shows that we've talked about, is I feel like you've looked into the spots of conspiracy that other people are afraid to look in to be labeled things in this kind of realm. And a big thing for just me as a white person, and I'm sure you, like some of the stuff in certain rabbit holes I've jumped down, like to be labeled a racist or an anti-Semite is like really fucking scary shit. I know this is a really heavy way to start it, and we're going to get into so much other stuff.
Love it.
But it's such really heavy shit, and there's so many of our rabbit holes we go down that you end up either at World War II or the state of Israel, or like the ISIS, Ra, and then L, like the Israel. Like there's so many different rabbit holes that lead to this thing, and sometimes when you're a white person, you can't talk about it. And I can always feel like we're gonna scratch the surface with so much fun stuff that I'm into talking about, but I'm and I feel like you are too, but there's always other people in the room.
Totally. There you go. Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with you. And I think, Sam says it a lot. I think it's, absolutely valid, regardless of anything. You can criticize a government, you can criticize a state, you can criticize, some power structure without it being boiled down to whatever ethnicity that is correlated with that. Like I can criticize the Chinese government and still love Chinese culture and love Chinese people. I can still criticize the Israeli government without any sort of disdain for the Jewish faith or people who live in Israel. I can criticize all that stuff. And that's completely fair game. It's just the reductionist thought of just, it's all about race. It's all about ethnicity. It's all about, it's just a bullshit way that they can take our feet out from under us without addressing the issue itself. It's just their the go-to method, and so powerful. And we've talked about this a couple times on the show, and I don't know if you've heard, but we kind of came up with an idea to flip the script on them, right? Did you hear us talk about that?
I hear all about the idea. By the way, which I gush about it before you get here, but they talk about all of this stuff on the Truthzilla podcast, which is doing the good stuff. So,
well, we're doing our best, and we got some exciting stuff coming up too. I'll have to tell you about it, but so here's the deal, right? So, free thinkers, people who don't go along with the narrative, who the subversives. We are, trying to be pinned down under this label of white supremacist, domestic terrorist, right? Well, to me, it seems like, okay, so if they're going to call me a white supremacist, I'm going to flip the script and call them something just equally maybe as preposterous as that, right? And what's the one other thing in the world that you'd rather not be called than a white supremacist? Way worse, probably.
Faggy witch.
Maybe
a patriotic faggy witch.
No. You got to go even deeper than that. What's the one pejorative term that you would rather not be called above anything else?
A rapist?
Something you can't. Yes. How about this? I'm just gonna. Yes. Exactly.
Don't keep asking me. I'll come with all these things that you're like, well, that's awful.
Well, how about no? That's great. No, I like it. So here, check this out. So I'm of the opinion that if you are in support of mask mandates, particularly if you're in support of masking children, then I think that you're just making them harder to identify because you're a pedophile. I think that if you support mask mandates, you are a pedophile. I think that if you watch CNN all day long, you are a pedophile. I think if you voted for Joe Biden, you are a pedophile. So that's it. We flipped the script completely. They're a bunch of pedophiles. Oh, you're going to call me a white supremacist? Okay, pedophile. What, you know?
Yeah, well, it's
I
a
mean, I
way
don't
that
know.
it's like if you want to slap me with this blanketed term so that it forces me to not ask any further questions. I think that's
Yeah.
where my avatar frees me in this realm or this timeline or this simulation, whatever way you want to look at it, frees me to say a lot of stuff that, what are you, like, I'm a self-hating gay. Like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Because I have conservative values. I have liberal values too. We're just not
Yep.
in that dichotomy right now where we're all eyes are on the crusty people with the chicken farm, having their chicken coops. That's not what we're doing right now. We're in this like crazy fucking world where I even think the softest hearted people I know, because they're so soft hearted, they're being guided by the nose, by a narrative that I don't know if they necessarily believe it anymore. It's just that it's the opposite of Trump. And I do think Trump had to not be there anymore for their false dichotomy to start falling away.
Yeah.
Like it was
I
like
think
this
so.
boogeyman could not be there any longer. We all know that election was bullshit. Like we all know that shit was stolen and all that. But it couldn't, the news narrative couldn't keep having big scary daddy Trump, or then we couldn't talk about all the real evils in the world that still need to be fucking talked about. From the
It's just
to the vaccines to that.
Oh yeah, it's just a cop out. Like I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't even know what they're doing without Trump in office. I think they're still trying to pin it on. Or no, here's what it was. I was watching. I don't ever watch freaking the news, but I just happened to be watching it. I don't know where I was at, like the gym or something, and I saw this big headline that said Tucker Carlson, the new Donald Trump. And I'm like, oh, I see what you're doing here. So they need to find. They need to have that figurehead. They need to have their angst directed somewhere, right? Again, to avoid discussing the issue itself, right? It's just
and
crazy.
I love being in Florida. I encourage everyone to move to Florida. I'm like, we should all move here and just take over. Like, let's just pinpoint it so we're all in a place, and let's just take over a place that's already doing the rad shit. My other side, because I'm like every other week, I change my mind about shit that I thought I was so like steadfast in. The other side of me is like, no, why do they get beautiful Oregon? Why do they get to make everyone leave and all the fighters leave to like rebuild? Why all the other, I hate using the words like sheep and NPC, but it is. I mean, they're the words of the people that are just playing along with the narrative. And one of the things that I like that you guys do on Truthzilla and with the community is you guys are like standing up and taking a fight, and you have stores that are, staying open for people and without, so you don't have to have the masks. And you have group meetups, which I think everybody needs to be doing across the country. You have group meetups where you're encouraging people, because there is strength in numbers, and it's an addiction to stand up for yourself. And once you stand up for yourself, once it becomes easy to not wear the mask the second time. And if you can look to your left and right, even if it's to strangers and they don't have a mask on too, it's easier to get your groceries and just remind yourself that you're a fucking lion again.
Yep.
And you guys are doing all that stuff, and I love it.
Thanks, Cheney. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like, I think just out of this whole podcasting journey, that's been really the big miracle, is just like this whole fellowship of people that have kind of just, reached out. And, obviously, like I can't imagine where I'd be right now without the podcast. Like, not only to have a place to go to every week to just vent, but also just having the camaraderie like that Megan and Ed and I have. But then also just all the other people, the listeners that have reached out. And, I've literally made some, like I consider some of these folks family, like some local people here in Eugene that have reached out, and it's so, and we hang out with them like outside, just like, I've gone to this guy's house and worked on a project, you know what I mean? And it's like, wow, dude, that's like the nicest people ever. And, so we actually just did an episode last night with her name's Mackenzie. She's starting a podcast too. You're gonna love Mackenzie. You got to talk to her. But she started the Portland Freedom Cell, And so we went up there and
You guys have so
kind
many
of got
great guests.
exposed.
Is she the one that you guys went out to eat with? Like, did you did a
Mm.
recording with somebody that you guys were like not in
Oh,
studio?
yep.
Okay, I
That's
listened
Tara.
to that.
That's Tara.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
okay.
Tara. Yeah. You'd love Tara too. You got like all these folks. Any of you want to talk to any of them, so, but yeah, so Mackenzie, she basically started the Portland Freedom Cell, and we went up there because again, actually, Adam from Deborah Gets Red Pilled back in the day when he was just a listener reached out and said, "Hey, have you guys heard of Freedom Cells?" And we're like, no, I don't know. It's like, hey, we got one going on up here in Portland. So we went up there and immediately walked into this room, and it was just like, this room full of people. And when we were a little late, and so we walked in, and they were talking about geoengineering, chemtrails, and like CIA mind control experiments. I'm like, okay, we're home, right? And again, this was maybe back in August, pretty well into the whole lockdown, and like literally being in a room full of people, no mask, talking about chemtrails, dude. I was like, okay, I'm into this. So, and really what it's kind of evolved into is we came back down here and started our own, and we've just got this massive, like we've got about 120 people in the main group. And that's kind of like, you go to freedomcells.org and you can come onto our page, and then there's an email address that you email. And if you kind of are, if you're determined that you're okay, then we'll give you the link to the main Telegram group. And then when you're show up to one of our meetups in person, then you get a link to the other Telegram group where you can, so that's exclusively for people who have actually shown up to a meeting before. So we kind of build trust
That's awesome.
that way. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we've got about 40 people that regularly I would say show up to the in-person ones. So it's a pretty legit deal. And we're talking everybody.
Like crazy, like just meeting the people that you've created relationships with in the flesh. Like you've created legitimate relationships. You have real trust. You've probably shared shit and had energies with them and exchanges with these people online going through 2020 and this scamdemic or whatever. And it's so crazy. And I've only really honestly met one of like, I have some of my best friends in the world are people I've never touched in the flesh yet.
Totally.
And it's
totally
nuts to me. Like some of the people that like I adore, like I think they're my tribe. And I can't even fathom like on the regular basis of creating these little group meetups, because you get to do it as like you from Truthzilla, but also you as like part, like really developing relationships in this community. It's special.
Honestly, it's pretty amazing. And I kind of try and keep the Truthzilla thing out of it. You know what I mean? Like we kind of just are just people showing up, and the whole idea behind it, the whole Freedom Cell movement is all decentralized. Like nobody's the leader, no one's running it. Whatever. There's different people that take on different roles within. They call it the cadre, right? The cadre is like your little group, and you're supposed to have like your inner cadre, which is like 8 people, and then your middle cadre, which is 20 people or whatever. And then your meta cadre. And so like the inner cadre is like, I would say the people that are in that Telegram group, the ones that show up. And then the middle cadre would be like maybe all the people who are in the main group, but maybe haven't shown up yet. You know what I mean? I don't know, maybe. And then the meta cadre is like the Pacific Northwest region. So like there's the Roseburg one just down the road from us, and then the big Portland Cascade regional one. And so it's just like, and then we got a big camp out festival here in May, here in a few weeks. So
that's
awesome.
Oh God. To just hang out and be like, okay, work hard, play hard.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome. So, we say it on the show all the time, but like just anybody out there listening, if you're interested, like go to freedomcells.org, look for one in your area. And if there isn't one, start one, because I know like Derek Bros, these guys are going on a lot of podcasts. They're getting the word out about Freedom Cells, and it's kind of like a beacon. And there's a lot of people going to that website and looking, and I hear a lot of people saying that they go there and they don't see one in their area, and then they just give up. I know a lot of people are going to that website looking for community, and if they don't, a lot of people though will get discouraged and just not start one, but I don't encourage everybody, just start one. We started one, and like for a couple of weeks there was nobody, and then all of a sudden, poof, it just took off, and people started inviting their friends and their family, and it's powerful. I've met some of the most amazing people ever, to the point where I almost wanted to do a branch off podcast called The Cadre. So anybody that wants to, you can have that name, you can go run with it, where I was just going to interview people who I'd met in Freedom Cells, because almost every single one has this amazing story. And so if you go back, like our last few episodes have just been local people that I've met through the Freedom Cell, that we've met through the Freedom Cells. Not all of them. Like the Gleaners episode, Josiah, who wrote this little, did you see that one at all by any chance?
No.
It's the, check that one out. It's the, it's called COVID-19, a counter argument. So we had this meetup, and there was like this younger kid there, like little 19-year-old kid. And I was like, God, is this Antifa? What the fuck's going on here, dude? Anyway, we got to talking, and he's like, check this out. And he like busted out his laptop. So he's a U of O student and University of Oregon, busted out his laptop, and he has just been going so hard, like trying to fight the university on their COVID lockdowns. And he wrote this like thesis paper, just deconstructing the entire COVID thing from every single angle, like from the lockdowns to like suicides to masks and he has this massive like collection of research, and everything's linked to like New England Journal of Medicine, like PubMed. It's all freaking peer-reviewed random controlled trial studies. The whole thing just deconstructs the entire thing. It's insane. So I was like, bro, you're fucking amazing.
I have one younger dude in my life that is 18, and he is totally woke, and it's impressively woke, and he's intelligently woke, and I hang out. I don't know him in person. I just chit chat with him in a chat room. But I feel like I know him, and he's wonderful, and it makes me so excited that there are like these. I never, part of the conspiracy game, which maybe you can relate to me here. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I was so into the logical, conspiratorial, like map, figures, dates, masculine of it. And now the more I get into the feminine, woo-woo, energetic magic of it, it's kind of blowing my mind. And so I do think maybe I believe in like star seeds and indigo children and all these things. If you would have told that shit to me like 2 years ago, I would have been like, boo! Like that was not my cup of tea with what I wanted to sit around the fire and talk about. But I am meeting that and little young kids that the more I'm present with them, like that are just saying crazy shit. Like kids are attached to things, and I had a kid look at me and just come right up to me while I was working, and he was like, "Hi, Cheney." And I was like, "Hi." And he's like, "I'm magic." And I'm like, "Yeah, I think you are." And then he just went back and played. But for some reason he needed to just tell me that. And I was like, I think they're like super attached. It's hard to find the religion that wouldn't say they were attached to source somehow. I don't know.
Absolutely.
How woo-woo do you get?
Let's do it. I'm all about it. I would say that I probably like I just have thoughts and opinions, but I haven't done like the deep dives. I would say that's something that I have a very much an interest in. I'm still trudging along through Secret Teachings of All Ages. You know what I mean? So
it's such a trudge. It's so
yeah. No, it's great though. Like every time, like I put it down for a while, and then I like kind of like I've been like highlighting as I go. You know what I mean? And then I kind of got to a place where I was like forgot what I'd read, so I just went back like 200 pages and just like started over. So I'm just plowing through it again. I'm at Pythagoras, discussing Pythagoras. Right?
I have no attention span, so I use it more as a reference to whatever other digs I'm on, and then whatever enters my brain, it's in the back of the book, and I can find 30 different symbols and religions, and it's too much. It's almost too much, because then it'll send me on a rabbit hole on a page just from reading 2 paragraphs, and I'll forget what the original point of me opening the book was. But I love it.
Well, shout out to the Grimerica guys. I heard they just did a whole audio book on tape of it. Like they just did a whole reading of it. So I think you can go support them by.
I don't know if they did the Manly P. Hall one.
Oh, really?
I think they did a different. It's like a secret. It's a different one of those esoteric books that is in like the top 20 of books you need to hear or read.
Okay.
But it's definitely, they are doing awesome books on tape.
Yeah. Okay. My bad.
Yeah. No, but it's
I was like, that's
title.
quite the undertaking. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, anyway, go out there and support the Grimerica guys. What are you doing? Yeah. So anyway.
Who's God to you
Yeah.
right now? What's God, if there is a God? What's God to you right now?
Well, that's a very interesting question. So like part of like my journey has been very, kind of a pursuit of finding out what that question is, you know what I mean? Like, and being in tune with whatever that is. And for me, that's been in the context of recovery. It's, without like going too much into it, like part of the tradition says we're not supposed to even talk about the specific program or anything like that, but we can say in general terms like 12-step type stuff. I found myself in a place where I was like,
What are the 12 steps?
you want to know what literally the 12 steps are?
Yeah.
Okay. The 12 steps are pretty groovy. So, and I believe that everybody should take the 12 steps. And there's people say that like it was actually brought to my attention very recently that like all the like the AANA stuff is very Masonic, very like kind of stuff going on there. I'm like, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of symbolism involved with it. But the 12 steps. First one is I don't see. I can pretty much do it from memory. So the first one is you admitted that you are powerless over blank and that your life has become unmanageable. Right. So for me, that was drugs and alcohol. My life, I was powerless over it. And a lot of people have a lot of problems with that step because nobody wants to admit powerlessness. I'm powerful. I'm strong, especially when you're, in active use, right? It's like I want to have all the power, but literally like the paradox of it, there's so many paradoxes in it. And stop me anytime if this gets too much. If this gets
I love it. I love it.
Okay. Because this is definitely a rabbit hole. So we'll give you a little triage here. So the first one is so when you admit your powerlessness and you surrender and you stop fighting it, that's when all the magic happens. That's when you can finally get some perspective on it and actually do something. Because like literally, that's the first step is just saying, okay, I have a problem and I need some help. That's it. And once you stop fighting, then the help shows up. Like one of my favorite sayings is, when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. And I'm like, oh,
I love that.
Yeah.
I was thinking the be water, my friend, and how important that was for me. Like just being a stone my whole fucking life and not being part of the stream at all. Like you'll never reach the ocean if you're the rock.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. So that's the first step, right? And they say that the first step's the only one you have to do perfectly. You have to surrender. You have to just, okay, I'm done. You know what I mean? If you got any sort of reservations, like, yeah, I'm done, but maybe in like 10 years I'll have a beer or something, it's like, I don't know. And so to me, it's like a program of complete abstinence. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that, you smoke, like you do heroin for 30 years and you smoke weed, you know what I mean? Cool. That's great. More power to you, dude. I just the type of person I am, once I get any sort of mind altering substance in my body, dude, it's game on and it's bad. So anyway, so that's just kind of what this is what's kept me.
So even psychedelics, any of it, your complete abstinence from all substance.
Complete abstinence. I've done it all, and yeah, it's taken me some pretty dark places. I will have 5 years here pretty soon.
Congratulations.
At the end of this year. Thank you.
I think intention is everything. Like it's everything with your life. So if you wake up every day and then the worst days and best days, don't do that thing. Because everyone thinks it's just the worst days. I would think the parties and the best days and the celebratory days might be equally as hard. And all those days. And then to just find your high and other shit is pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, it's the highs are so amazing, dude. Like I'm doing things in my life I can't even possibly imagine. Like there's no way I'd be able to do it even if I was distracted with anything else. But anyway,
have you gotten power through a little love?
Yeah, I would say yes, I have, but I don't know. That's a whole nother ball of wax.
Okay, number 2.
Okay, so the second step. The second step is made a decision. Let's see. Let's see. Came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. So I come to the realization that maybe possibly there might be something out there that might be able to restore me to sanity. So I don't actually have to do anything. I just have to maybe open my mind to the possibility that something outside of myself might be able to restore my sanity. It's kind of interesting. So that kind of opens the door to the idea of the higher power, right? So the third step is I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of, it actually uses the word God, but we like to emphasize that it's not like it's your, whatever God you want, whatever your higher power you choose. That's what
you want to get about it.
Yes,
it could be Source
absolutely.
Or Buddha or whatever 100%. You pick.
Whatever you pick. And so that's the cool part about it. And a lot of people get hung up on that. Like you go to your first meeting and you see the God word, capital God. You're like, oh, hell no, I'm out of here. But no. That's not it at all. And so that's the cool thing, is just like the eternal question is like, how do I know that I am in alignment with my higher power's will? And so, like, to answer your original question, like, what is my higher power? Like, that's the cool thing about this journey and working these steps. And like, you know, once you finish the steps, you start over. And then I'm able to look at what my answer was, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago, and look at where I'm at now. And the cool thing, especially about like steps 2 and 3, when it comes to the higher power, like it talks a lot of, like, there's so many different questions in each step, you know what I mean, that your mentor, your sponsor will take you through. But you know, one of them is like, you know, discuss some evidence of a higher power working in your life.
That's very Masonic. And it's like, even the first rule, I think of the Masonic, I almost called it a religion.
Freemasonry, yeah.
It's, you have to be reverent to a power higher than yourself.
Yep.
And a lot of people have a hard time with that. And to me, philosophy-wise, just backing up, because I break my brain with thinking of all different schools of thought always with the religion, and I don't land in any one yet. I think that in my life, I've sat in the lowest low, and sometimes you're not enough. Sometimes the idea of God, or the idea of a friend, or the idea of a lover, or a parent, or a sibling, or whoever, just being there is what gets you out of that lowest low. And so I think that reverence is super important to kind of having some kind of faith or hope. And I mean, not to get all quantum on it, but it seems like that's how you control the matrix, is by having that kind of faith or hope.
I agree. And just the quantum element of it, how it's like almost everything and anything at any given time, and all variations and variables of it that you can conceive times infinity. Like, that's kind of where I'm at with it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to like define my higher power. I don't want to like put a name or a label on it. I want it to be much bigger than that. As soon as I start to define it or label it or even begin to understand it, then I'm putting limits on it, and I want it to be as limitless as conceivably possible, and then some, you know? And so it's almost like one of those paradoxes again, where it's like the more in tune I am, the less I understand. Like, same thing with conspiracy. The more I go, the deeper I get to realize there's so much more to it, and there's no way to ever you know, wrap my head around it, and nor would I want to. If I were to understand what my higher power was, or even have any conceptualization of it, then that would make me some sort of God, and I don't want that, you know. That's like the rules, is like, yeah, you can pick your own God, just make sure that you're not it. That's it. You know.
Would I ever be able to come up with the grunty words in English, and the words I can speak, and the tongue I can portray? Could I ever have the words to tell you how wonderful, beautiful, lovely? Like, what word do you use to describe God, or even the God between us, like the energy between us right now, or how you look at, how do you describe the real knowing of God? And I know people get, for me right now anyway, I know people get all caught up in God, devil, and like speaking about it in simple terms. And it's like the PC culture conditioning of us. Even as conspiracy theorists, there's certain words that we've even done it to each other. So you'll be like, I like, when did you wake up? And you're like, I'm woke. Oh, you're not allowed to say woke anymore. Or you'll be like, I'm just here to spread the truth. Well, what is the truth? We don't even know the truth. What's true today could be wrong tomorrow. It's like we're all nitpicky with each other with these words that we're saying, even though we know what we're trying to say. We all are aware what we're trying to say, but instead of debating the ideas, we're like dicing the words apart. And I think that's even what God has become to me. this like glue, this connection between us,
Yeah.
this energy, this fucking higher self that you're just waiting to remember. It's I don't know. I don't know what I think it is yet. But I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think it's protective. I think it's magical. But I
Loving and caring.
Yeah, and I also
Yeah.
think sometimes it's hard, and it's like, all the things we said were really feminine. I think sometimes it's really masculine in that way that it's like, nope, you can get back on your bike. Like, yep, you fell down, but you can do it. And it's really fatherly and it's really like protective. I think it's both these things kind of mixed together in a way. And I don't think necessarily because things are dark, they're evil. Like, I don't know. And I could be totally wrong on this. This is like, I think there's a yin and a yang.
Yep.
And I think there's dark and light. And my light is my feminine heart. And it's like my nurturing, loving, giving, like all these things that we could say are feminine, motherly things. My dark is my masculine logic. It's protective and providing, and it protects my divine feminine. It makes sure that's safe, and my divine feminine makes sure that my masculine has spirituality. It's these two things that are working together in all of us, I kind of think. But I think somewhere it was easier for evil to hide in the dark and for it to convince the world. Well, actually, I think it was easier to hide in the light, but it convinced the world all darkness was evil. So we're all scared to look in the dark. We're scared to swim in the water with Jaws. We're scared to go in the woods with Blair Witch. We're scared. We're fear. Those are all the things we used to do, I think, tribally as people to find spirit. We used to stare in the woods and stare in the fire. And I think they've kind of veered us off, like our feminine told our masculine to like take those walks away from our tribe. And we were brave enough to do it because our masculine was there. And then we saw the beautiful things we saw because our feminine had the eyes to see it. Like, I think it was somehow a mix that was happening forever. And then evil infiltrated. I don't think evil is the darkness. I think our like the duality, I know like Hermeticism's big in our school of things. I think our duality is broken. So when people are like, well, it's either Republican or Democrat, who says that's the duality? Like, I won't let them create the duality for me. So when it's like good or evil, nope, I won't take that. I'm going to change my duality so that the way I like am in love with my wife right now becomes the new way. That's my new bottom. That's the new way I love everyone. And then I find a new way to love her that's bigger than anything I've fucking ever felt. Like,
there you go.
It's like, can you like, I don't know, can you imagine if we like love humanity in this way, but somewhere evil infiltrated it and it made us shameful. It wasn't about being fucking covered in clothes. That's a simple idea. I just think somewhere we started to shame questioning things and shame going against the grain and being like, we've all just been conditioned to be shamed and to shame each other. I don't know. That was a whole big idea that I just...
No, that's great. There's so much there. Oh my gosh.
I know. I just am like, here's a bunch of word vomit after I smoke some weed and drink a ginger ale. And
I love it. Like, I mean, just the idea of, maybe the dark isn't necessarily evil and like there's light and dark. I mean, I can think of like, in the pursuit of doing righteousness and doing good, sometimes there's violence and destruction and not in the way that like, bombing Syria or any shit like that. But like
Christ
sometimes,
flipped a table. Like Jesus Christ, he's like, fuck these bankers.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to stand up, and I think that the real evil is not standing up. I think that there's cowardice. Like that's the darkness, cowardice would be a part of the darkness. That's not necessarily evil. I would say that ignorance is part of the darkness, but not necessarily evil, and all of the, what like the sins, the 7 deadly sins, right? Like that's part of the darkness, but not necessarily evil, and I think that that's very interesting to think of, that maybe there's a third dimension to it. You have the light, the dark, and then the evil that infiltrates both. And, of course, that part of their the religion of all this is the inversion, right? The inversion of everything, to where now what is considered righteous has been so, I would say, demonically infused with evil. And those of us who do want to stand for truth and light, and we're the ones that should be out there screaming no justice, no peace. Because we're trying to bring about, like if people had justice in the world, we wouldn't be dealing with all this stuff, man. And it's like it's so corrupted and so fractured that I feel you. It's a really interesting one.
What's step 5? Are we on to step 5? Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. So let's see. No. So that was the
This
first
is
three.
perfect. This
So
is kind of like it's almost like shit. I should make my own 12 steps for this podcast and walk everyone
Totally.
through this. This is amazing.
Dude, the 12 steps, I think everybody, before you graduate high school, and then when you're like every decade, you should do the 12 steps in your own life. It's not specific to substance abuse at all. So steps 1, 2, and 3 are kind of go together. That's kind of like they say that I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But anyway, it's like identifying, or maybe just opening yourself up to a power greater than yourself. And so like step 4 is the doozy. This is where we lose a lot of people, is step 4. Step 4 is you make a searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself. And so that is where you go in and you write down in a notebook all your deepest, darkest secrets, everything that you've ever done wrong, everything that everybody you've ever hurt, up to and including, like, I'm talking everything you've ever done, every person you've ever hurt, every person you've ever killed, every crime you've committed, every single transgression you can think of, you write down. It's intense.
That's very Scientology.
It is. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know what Scientology.
That's how you get clear, is you write down all your transgressions and everything, and as you kind of let yourself, you forgive yourself of those things, they believe your IQ gets higher. I mean,
Skull and Bones too,
but that's one of their.
Isn't that like Skull and Bones too, like death and resurrection ritual or something, where you like Matt Damon like laying naked in the coffin, right? Like telling them all their darkest secrets, right? Something like that.
I know, it seems
right?
like such a crazy way to, and NXIVM. That was the NXIVM.
NXIVM, yeah.
They all had to send naked pictures and their dark secrets.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I never made that connection. So, but still, it is kind of like a little death and resurrection ritual.
No, there has to be
steps
something
4 and 5.
I think the elite take rituals and they invert them all to make them negative. But I do think ritual is super important, because ritual just adds intention. Yeah, totally. So steps 4 and 5 kind of go together. So step 4, you write down your searching and fearless moral inventory. And step 5, you admit to God, to yourself, and to another human being the exact nature of your wrongs, which means that you, with your sponsor, generally, you sit down and you read your 4th step to them. And as a sponsor, you're supposed to go with them, and like all the stuff that they share, like all the crazy shit, you're just supposed to be like, that's all right. I did that sort of thing too. I did that too. That was my experience. All the shit I wrote down, that was like, holy shit. Like, and then like the stuff you're going to take to your grave, like that's a question on there. Like, after you write down all your shit, like then it's asked, okay, now write down all the things you're going to take to your grave. It's like, motherfucker, all right. and so you share all that with another human being. Things that you thought you were going to take to your grave that now as a person, you are like, it doesn't weigh on me the same.
Exactly.
Don't need to take it to my grave.
Exactly. And that's what it was. It's like the releasing of it. And then as a sponsor, you're supposed to be like, that's all right. I did the same thing, or, that was just what you do in addiction. I mean, I know 10 other people that have done that, that sort of stuff. You're supposed to take all the power out of it. Right. So you're not so alone and trapped and having it wear you down. So very much a death and resurrection ritual type of thing. So step 6 and 7 kind of go together. Step 6 is now you go back to your 4th step where you wrote everything down, and you're supposed to pull out all of your character defects. So you write a list of all your character defects. You write down all your defects of character, and then step 7 is you humbly ask your higher power to remove them. And so basically you turn over your defects. And there's some stuff that you do that kind of like helps you, like when you're noticing in your day-to-day life that you're acting up in your character defects, then you're like, oh, wait a minute. I have something I can do to.
You're working on right now. I'll tell you one of
Defect.
mine. I'm dismissive and I'm trying to work
Dismissive.
at it. It's um my logic's cold, and sometimes when information or when people are giving me information, it goes in really fast and I file it away, and then I start
Yeah.
talking and it makes them feel in a way that I emotionally dismissed their idea. And so I have to, like, my computer of me needs to be
Yeah.
like human need feeling back at them.
Yeah.
So I
Wow.
am working at not being dismissive to people I care about.
Good. That's awesome. I'd say for me, patience has been an ongoing thing. Patience is hard. I think one of the just fear in all its shapes and forms. You know, Fear is just a very kind of underrides a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
Do
So
you have
just
kids?
I don't have any kids.
What are you
No,
scared of?
it's just like not necessarily. It's just weird. Like just fear of what people are gonna think, or fear of not what's gonna happen in the world. You know what I mean? It's just like and so the opposite of that and how you combat that is just faith.
Yeah.
Faith is the opposite of fear. Just knowing it's going to be okay. As long as I'm doing the right thing, as long as I'm taking care of things on my end, just having faith it's going to be okay. Because sometimes there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but just knowing that I can get through it. I always do. I got lots of people in my corner, none they can't handle. That's what one of the things I love about recovery is just like, I see people walk through the most horrendous things. I've seen them walk through, you know, losing a child, like in recovery and staying clean and walking through it. So it's been proven to me that no matter what, I can handle life. It's kind of like my superpower. I just know as long as I use the tools that I have, I can get through anything. Totally. It's a
Yeah, and
trip.
it's like as hard
Yeah.
like saying that, like somebody losing a child,
Yeah.
it's like you think of your darkest dark loss,
Yeah.
and is it that loss?
Yeah.
Is it as big as that? And it really
Yeah.
does put it in perspective a little
Yep.
bit.
So that to me, that just tells me, okay, so I don't need to be fearful. I don't need to have uh fear, but as soon as I slip back from where I've been, like as long as I get off as soon as I get off this path and I start being like dishonest or cutting corners or being manipulative or aggressive or just, eventually that's going to lead me back to probably using, and then all bets are off. You know what I mean? So
When was the last time
that's
you've
the
been out
first
of Oregon?
step. Been out of Oregon. I think I went to California. It's funny. I went and visited a friend just outside of San Francisco, like end of 2019. Um, and somehow we were talking about like Bohemian Grove or something like that. And she was like, oh, that's like 45 minutes away from here. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Bohemian Grove? Like 45 minutes away? Like, we gotta go. She's like, okay. So we drove all the way to Bohemian Grove, dude. It was so great. Like like driving, it's like this windy, like gravel road, like up to the main like public entrance. I got some pictures like right out front. And then while we were standing there, and I was playing the theme music to Eyes Wide Shut, like as we were driving up. It was like super, super extra creepy. But and then like while we were standing there, like taking photos, there's like all these no trespassing signs everywhere. Like this blacked out, like super nice, like Mercedes, like who knows, like not a Mercedes that I'd ever seen before, like brand new, shiny, like tinted black windows, just goes speeding by out from inside of it. And I'm like, shit, dude, who knows? That could have been Henry Kissinger, Barack Obama. I don't know, who knows? Like,
Who
damn.
knows what's
Anyway,
going on in there?
yeah,
The people that we
yeah,
don't even know their names, the real
exactly,
powerful people. That's
exactly.
I
So
know. I
yes,
was just wondering when you felt like the full freedom of like going to the grocery store, going and pumping your gas, getting on a boat, and just being your going to a barbecue and having no COVID mention, no mask
yeah,
on. That life. Like, when was the
yeah.
last time you had that life?
It's pretty. I've had moments like that throughout this whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, uh, the freedom cells thing has been great. Like, even though it does feel like we're kind of like underground railroad type situation where we're just like meeting. and, but you know what I mean? Like, we do barbecues. We've been barbecuing this whole time, and
Do you feel like
but
your
yes, you're
soul
right.
chose to be alive right now?
But yes, but you're right. But just in their normal functioning, like I'm sitting at the park here, and like I've seen just people walking through here with masks on. It's like, man, ugh. It's crazy. Yeah.
It hurts your soul a little. I
Yeah.
feel blessed that I have great people around me, and then it's getting more and more that are moving to my state of great people, and
Yeah.
then I have my online community of like goddamn witches and warriors of awesome
Yeah.
fucking people
Yeah.
that I just feel like I can vent to them. They don't really judge me for going to the Home Depot and being the lone person at the Eyes Wide Shut meeting without a mask on, and
Yes.
having this like, I'm there, I'm smiling, I'm present, I'm not scared of them. But then when I get out of the store, sometimes I feel away. Sometimes I feel like weepy. Sometimes I want to cry. Sometimes I'm mad and I want to punch something. But I don't want them to see it at the meeting. So I'm glad I have my online friends.
Totally. Yeah, just sidetrack here. We're almost done with the steps, but like that has been a very hot topic of discussion on our end. Like, dude, Oregon's getting almost to the point where it's not viable. Like for me, it's not as concerning, but I know Megan and Ed are very concerned. They're trying to pass this Senate Bill 254, I think it is, which removes the parents' ability to object to vaccinations for their children. And it even goes so far as like homeschool kids. It removes the parents' ability to object to vaccinations. And it's like they're going there.
These
so
are the number one things that I feel like people like us in this lifetime picked our avatars because we don't have children, and it puts us in a place that we can fight differently.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know who said it. You probably do, like Thomas Paine or something, or Benjamin Franklin. I don't even know, but it was like America used to be great because there were Americans that built trees they would never feel the shade of. And so I think it's important that not only is it Americans planting trees they'll never feel the shade of, but Americans planting trees that literally have no child that will ever pick the fruit. They're investing in something that has nothing to do with their offspring or a bloodline or whatever love that people have for their child. It's an idea of like, for me, I am in love with the Constitution. I think it's the best document for a country that's ever been written. And I do buy into complete sovereignty. I think that is given to you on birth. But unfortunately, we live in a realm that it requires a government to protect your sovereignty. And I could be totally wrong. There's never been another government ever created that's protected that sovereignty better than the United States of America. And so I feel privileged. I never got to serve for this country, or I never chose to, or my avatar. I'm blessed not to have had to put myself in that situation for a corporate war that I thought I was fighting for something different. But I feel blessed to get to fight now and to do it with a microphone and to avoid a fucking revolution. That's the hopes. Is to avoid a fucking bloody revolution.
Man, I don't know, dude. It's getting crazy. Like I was just listening to, do you hear old Biden today? The old gun confiscation shit.
That's where, if it has to do with kids, it's like would be my number one, where I'd get the fuck out of the state, where I'm like, okay, it's time to go. You don't need to fight. But once they want to start coming for your guns or gold, all right, you got to get to a place where people are at least like-minded enough, thinking that you're not fighting your government and your fellow Americans.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think it almost seems like they're trying to instigate a civil war. Like that's really what it feels like. Like there's no way that they're proposing just like, all the ghost guns and the red flag laws. Like if your friend even says, yeah, this guy's kind of crazy, like, and they'll just come take all your guns, just kick down your door, take your guns. Like,
and to me, if there were like a bad guy elite, their trump card, not to trigger anyone and say daddy's name, their trump card would be the Derek Chauvin trial.
Oh yeah.
Like if they were looking for one domino to try to set off what they tried to do in 2020, but it would be like waiting for the outcome of what I thought back then. He had fentanyl and a bad batch of drugs with fentanyl in them. I've had so many friends, whether that have OD'd died or gotten completely maimed, like lost limbs because their body went into anaphylactic shock because of fentanyl. And actually, weirdly enough, in like 2014, maybe even 2012, I was in Portland and it was my birthday. It was 11/21, and a friend of mine came in, and I thought she was there to say, "Happy birthday, girl, here's a present." And she was in hysterics because her best guy friend was in the hospital, and like kind of his body was shutting down on him. He was dying. And she was like, total not a conspiracy theorist. And this actually dawned on me today, this memory. And she was totally hyperventilating and panicking. And she's like, I don't know, he got bad drugs or something from China. Like there's something in the drugs from China. Like, and I remember her saying words to me that I didn't even understand back then. And we all have fentanyl roll off our tongue now, like fentanyl. But what I understand about the Derek Chauvin thing too is he had with George Floyd is he had counterfeit money and drugs. Both things I think he got from the building that was one of the first buildings to burn down in the riots, which Ilhan Omar's father actually owns the block that all those buildings are on. And another one of those buildings that's on it is the club where Derek Chauvin and George Floyd worked at together. So that whole fucking thing. And so anyways, I know that was a big, huge thing to get into with the domino of the Derek Chauvin trial, but it's just interesting to me that I feel like it seems like there's two sides still playing some kind of chess with us in the middle of it. And one side's king that's moving across the board is this Derek Chauvin trial. That's what I see.
Yeah, that's not going to be good. I don't think there's any outcome where it's a good thing. I think we're being set up, and I think just the lack of, I mean, there's so many things along the way, like even Trump, there's so many things along the way that could have been done to prevent the situation that we're in, I think. And I think that there's just, I mean, I think the whole two-party illusion, is like, as it's called, like, I think that's just, it's kind of showed its hand, the Republicans will just push back just enough to make it seem like there's a resistance when in fact it's all the same thing. And I'm just so, I don't know, I think we're just being played. It's so frightening and so frustrating.
The lefts will never get rid of abortion because that's what they run on every year. And he said, and the right will, or vice versa, the right will never get rid of abortion because that's what they run on every year. And the left will never get rid of guns because that's what they run on every year.
Yeah.
And it's like they're both big. Now with my words, I'd be like, oh, they're both these big loosh movements that we just talk about every election cycle. But where I disagree is like history says that a country always gets taken over, and beforehand it always has to have those guns taken.
Exactly. Like it's just preposterous to me. Now, unfortunately, I'm not even allowed to own guns, so I'm just like, you know what I mean? I'm one of those felons. But part of my addiction story. But it's just like, dude, I still see where like people need their damn guns, dude. Come on.
Were you on? Did you try drugs young, or were you prescription drugs young?
No. I was kind of a drinker through my 20s, like high school 20s, and then like started getting some more harder stuff. Got into some meth. That's what really took me out.
I've tried meth in my life. I was really young. I'm old enough to be like, I tried meth once before it was called meth. Oh, my dad.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Hold on one sec. I'm gonna.
No worries.
She just got so excited. Somebody probably asked her if she wanted to go outside.
Oh. That's funny.
Okay. But it was totally not called that. It was like crank or something. It was almost a party drug.
Crank? Oh, yeah.
And I was in a rich enough high school because I definitely think cocaine is a financial drug. You have to be in some kind of affluent living situation to be able to get cocaine on the reg. I had tried cocaine too young, maybe even before I ever really got into marijuana. And thank God, lucky, thank God, made it through the cocaine, like any of the monster of cocaine, young.
Yeah.
But when I moved to Los Angeles, and I only tried meth a few times, but it was so much a different commitment than cocaine ever was. But I snorted it in that same exact way that I would snort coke, but it was meth. And so I was used to, like 2 hours fun, not 2 days I need to eat.
Yeah. It's intense. That was the things, like I was drinking a lot back then, and then like I just had a fluke, like tried some, smoked some meth, and I was like, oh damn, okay, now I could get down with this, and that just completely switched. Like I stopped drinking like completely and just chased that bag, dude, and just like into oblivion. I found that I had quite the affinity for boosting, as they call it, right? Boosting is running up into Walmart and running out with a bunch of stuff you didn't pay for. Like that was my hustle, dude. I came up, dude. I don't know. That was kind of my hustle for quite a bit, and I came up with some elaborate schemes. And I built my own little devices that like unlock all the security straps on all the electronics, and like, had some pretty massive hustles going on, and got away with it for quite a few years, several years. But ended up getting caught with $3,000 worth of Wi-Fi surveillance cameras getting out of Costco, and I got away with it. But I got greedy and tried to sell them on Craigslist, and ended up selling to some police officers.
And you're like, shit.
And I ended up doing 14 months in prison over that. Oregon State Prison.
Which is kind of bullshit, because if they have to give you over 12 months just so you go to prison instead of jail, and it becomes a whole nother headache to get back out onto the streets.
Yeah. Well, it was 22 months sentence, but I got 14 months reduced sentence because I did a drug and alcohol treatment program while I was in there. And that was it. I got arrested on August 27th, 2016. Actually, that was the last day I ever got. So I got arrested August 27th, booked August 28th, and then I got high once in prison on like December 4th, 2016, and then that's the last time I ever got high.
Does that feel like the shittiest high ever, where you're just
it was
what
fucked.
the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, it was fucked, dude. It was insane. And so like, here was the thing. It's kind of a funny story. So like, I got arrested August 27th, and then I was like determined. I was like, I'm done, dude. I gotta be done, man. I gotta be done. This is so stupid. And, I had done a little bit of 12-step stuff back in the day. And so that's kind of how I knew that, okay, maybe there's some hope if I actually take it seriously this time, blah, blah, blah. So, but I got arrested on the 27th, booked on the 28th. And on that day, I pretty much had made the commitment that I'm never getting high ever again. And here in Oregon, they have this place called Coffee Creek, which is like the, so after doing my county time and going to court and getting sentenced and blah, 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 I ended up in Coffee Creek, which is like an intake facility where they just kind of keep you there for like 30 days and see like, how crazy you are, what prison they're going to send you to, and just kind of do like evaluations on you. And I knew that I didn't have that many. I had just a bunch of like petty theft arrests. So I knew I wasn't going to like any place bad, any like major yard. But I still had a case open. So I didn't know this at the time. So they rolled me up out of the intake facility, and they were lining people up to get on the transport buses. And they call my name, and they're like, "You're over here. We're going to OSP." And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. What?" OSP, that's Oregon State Penitentiary. And that's where like the maximum security, medium max with death row. It's like the old penitentiary, right?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, wait a minute, there's got to be some mistake here. Like, oh my God, no. Like,
you're just like, I'm a kid and I'm going to Alcatraz.
Dude, that's what it seriously felt like. I was so, oh my God. So get there. And it's crazy too, because the story goes that it was built in the 1860s. Oregon State Penitentiary was built in the 1860s. And it's a condemned building. You're not even allowed to have people in the building, but apparently they just pay the fines every year to keep it open as opposed to building a new facility. So it's pretty crazy. So I showed up and they gave me my roll up, and they're like, I'm on like D block, like third tier. They're like, all right, you're all the way down on the end.
And your roll up's like your mattress.
Yeah, it's just like it's like your sheets, blankets, pillow, clothes.
And were you a good kid at this point? You had never been in trouble, like pretty much?
No, I mean, I've been in and out of like county jail quite a bit over the years up before that. And like I had built this ego in my addiction of being like this like outlaw criminal type person, you know what I mean? Like running around with people that weren't that wholesome, you know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely, but this is like, on the mean streets of Springfield, Oregon. So, people that are local, you'll know what I'm saying, but like it's pretty grimy out here. It really actually is a pretty grimy.
Oh, I think you hit your mic or unplugged it.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
I mean, it's not like, I wouldn't say it's not like grimy like freaking Chicago or something like that, but like it's pretty grimy out here. But anyway, so but yeah, I don't know. By the time I landed there and I saw what real criminals were, dude, and I met some lifers, and it's just like, dude, I don't belong here. I don't belong here at all, man. It's interesting talking to a person who is going to be spending the rest of their life in prison. I talked to a couple of them. They have a very different outlook on the world. That's for sure. Like I just like look in their eyes. Like, honestly, they're nice. They were nice people. One guy said that he just finished one life sentence. He'd been in there for 26 years. And he was about to start his second one. It's just like, what the hell, dude?
And to still maintain some kind of humanity with that going on.
Yeah, it's insane.
Is there any time in all this lockdown that you felt like I can deal with this? Like I at least have more freedoms than I did, or was the opposite where you're like, I did not get out of fucking prison to have to?
No. Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things that I remember feeling very distinctly, because I you get to know a lot of the people in there. I met some really great people. A lot of them that are still out, still clean, doing good stuff, but the majority of them end up going back. But one of the things I told myself from day one is that, I will not get comfortable here. I will not get comfortable here, because there's a lot of people that do. They make it, there's people that are just absolutely so institutionalized that, it's like this is their fourth, fifth, sixth time going back, like serving a year here, 2 years there, like they're almost more comfortable in there than in the outside world, And so that was something I very much told myself, is that I will not get comfortable here. I will refuse to allow myself to think that this is acceptable in any way, shape, or form. And so I think that that's kind of
in the Pacific Northwest too. Did you have to find, like, I know this is like a prison, maybe it's like an old wives' tale or something about prison. Yeah. I mean, we actually opened the show with it. I wonder it for myself. Did you have to like get into a gang? Did you have to become like Aryan Nation or something?
No, I'll tell you about the Oregon prison's hilarious. It's but anyway, I'll just finish this real quick. So like I got my roll up, I was at OSP, and I walked down to my cell, and the first thing the guy's like, "Hey, we get high in here." I'm like, "Okay, whatever you say." I was like, my head the whole time I was just like, "Just please don't rape me, please don't rape me." Whoever I end up with, I just don't want to get raped. That's all I want. Like I don't care. I'll get into a fight. Like I can do fights, but please, God, please, So anyway, I didn't get raped. No rape. It's all good. No fights even. But here's the deal. So Oregon prison. It's kind of funny. So yeah, OSP was the real deal. Like that was definitely the real deal. But I was only there for about 60 days while my case that was still open was getting resolved. And then I ended up getting shipped out to a minimum security, which is just like, you have your bunk, but then they have like the yard and you can go out and walk laps. And they even had a guitar, that I could check out. So I would just play the guitar, hang out. Like it's okay. So I ended up at this place called Powder River, which is all the way in Eastern Oregon. And that's where I did, about 9 months. Well, let's see, probably about 8 months, because then that's where I did the 6-month treatment program too. But it's like during the summer, you just lay out in the yard, like in your tidy whities and suntan, like everyone's just suntanning, just chilling. You can order veggie trays, which is great. I always ordered the veggie trays, like instead of the regular trays. So you just put in your order, so you can have like vegetarian options, right? And then every now and then they'd bring in these little miniature ponies that had like dresses on and little like I don't know, like shoes almost. Little miniature ponies for the inmates to like pet, the little therapy pony. So that's Oregon prison.
I'm
So
such
it's
a
like
creep show. I'm like, why
yeah,
did they have
yeah.
dresses on? Like at
I
first
don't
I
know.
was like, where's this story going?
Yeah, just saying. Yeah, exactly. No. But that's literally it. Like Oregon prison is like veggie trays and therapy ponies. So it's like, and at the same time, it's not bad, dude. I read a bunch of books. I wrote a book, for crying out loud. I got way back into playing the guitar. I wrote some music. Like one of the songs is like part of the band that I'm in, like one of our main songs. You know what I mean? It's like, it's great. It was, I got so much done and it really recentered and refocused. And I came out of there. I was scared when I got out too, but I had this like renewed sense of motivation to change the way I live. And like, I started doing the recovery thing and like, that gave me the tools I needed to be on this path. And this path is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And I think, kind of what you were talking about earlier about the light and the dark, I'm convinced that, a person's, it is very much like a yin and a yang thing where it's like the deeper you go into the darkness, like the depression, the suffering, the desperation, like when the further you get into like the emotional darkness, that increases your capacity to feel that much equal but opposite like joy and gratitude. You know what I mean? And so I just feel today like I have just like a fuller tank. I have a fuller capacity to appreciate and see the world in a different way for sure, because I know that that I've seen some pretty dark, crazy stuff. You know what I mean? And I know what I don't want. So absolutely.
It's almost like your ego is the glass that holds in all the knowledge and spirit and love and fear and all this good stuff. And eventually that overflows and you're like, I got all this shit together. Like I got it together. I'm overflowing. I got all the answers. And then you have an ego death in that glass that's holding all that liquid and shatters. And but it becomes a bigger container. And now where you once felt like you were overflowing, now only half fills the new container.
Yeah,
so you're in this like new fucking spot of like, I don't know anything. I don't even know how to feel.
Yeah, I can relate to that. That's happened to me several times throughout this journey, and I anticipate that it probably will continue to happen. Another thing worth mentioning too, which was just another huge red pill for me, was while I was in prison, seeing how, it's like the inmates, like it's very much a status thing about how much you can like order off of what they call the commissary, right? So commissary is, you can order coffee, you can order like top ramen and tortillas and jars of peanut butter and bags of oatmeal, like chips, candy bars, like extra food, you know what I mean, to have in your bunk. And like there's people that don't have anybody on the outside taking care of them, no money on their books, like, and they're wearing like the shoes that the prison issues. And you can buy shoes, you can buy a TV, buy guitars, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So the inmates that had like shoes, like nice Nikes and
it's like Home
freaking
Shopping
the TV.
Network or something.
Yeah.
It's like prison Amazon.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly like prison Amazon. So the people that had those things and drawers in their little bunks filled with freaking peanut butter and big bags of coffee, like that's the main currency in prison is coffee, big bags of coffee, because there's no cigarettes anymore. So like coffee is the main like currency pretty much. And so, those people have like a higher status, obviously, right? And every day, like, and I didn't have anybody taking care of me on the outside. I didn't have shit, dude. Like I had hand-me-down shoes, and which is better than, they call them like rapo shoes. Usually if you're just wearing
those weird pull apart like foamy sandals.
No, they actually look like Converse, like just regular Converse.
Oh,
Oregon
okay.
prison.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I kind of had an aversion to Converse after I got. I'm like, hell no, I ain't wearing those, dude. but now, because those are fucking rapo shoes, dude. Like, but now I get it. I've got a pair of Converse, but but just seeing these people like just showing up every day, just spending like, not every day, but usually it's like once a week, but like $200, $300 every week, week in and week out on like the commissary stuff. And it just got me thinking like, dude, this is it right here. Like it's very, analogous to like our society out here. Like we basically fuel our own enslavement. Like these people, like if you just like said across the board, okay, nobody orders canteen this month, period, 100%. If you fucking order canteen, you're gonna get fucking smashed out, dude, and like have the gangs enforce it. You know what I mean? Then the whole prison system would just collapse. Boom, right then and there. The whole prison industrial complex, because that's where they're making just, they charge like $2 for a top ramen, for like a 5-cent top ramen. You know, that is where they're making all their money, dude. And you're just literally paying for your own enslavement. It just blew my mind. And like literally, you could just stop today. You could stop it today.
I always thought that phone calls from prison were bullshit. Anytime any of my friends would call me from prison, it would cost me like, you know, on the minimum for 5 minutes, $12 on the bare minimum. But if I was on the phone with them for whatever amount of time they could call, or the reconnection fee would be a certain amount, and they would only let them talk this much. So if they could use the phone for a certain amount of time on their free time, they would call me more than once. So then it would be all these reconnection charges. And it would just be like the fact that I would have to spend $50 to talk to my friend and hear their voice and do all this. And how many people, if you're in prison or that can even afford that have families on the outside that can afford a $50 phone call. And then another thing, I have to be on your list for you to even call me. I have to be on your list for you to even visit. They have to do all this. So sometimes you can't, to get a hold of a person, if they wanted to have a visit and all of it, it might be 3-4 months before all that can go through. Like they don't make it easy to stay human inside that place.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. If I ever go back up for whatever stupid reason, like you guys gotta, I'll put you on my books. So we could do like a fucking Patreon show or something. Like
my dad used to say, like you are the equation of your friends. Like you are who you hang out with. Yeah. Yep. Do you feel that when you look around at the people you surround yourself with, that they're so much better than before? And then give yourself like a validation that, oh, I must be so much better than before.
I agree. Like I you know, I have Ed and Megan, who I cherish dearly. You know what I mean? Like those are my definite inner circle right there. I got the guys in the band too. You know, like you know, and the band people. We're all, not to speak for them, but we're all kind of on the same path. You know what I mean? And oh yeah, just pretty amazing. It's pretty blessed, honestly. it's pretty
awesome,
true.
Isn't it crazy how like you sit and you can probably shut your eyes and be like laying in a bunk at a fucking prison, and then you know how much time, it seems like so much time, but it's really not that much time at all. And then you're like, holy shit, my life's totally where I want it to be, or heading there. I mean, regardless of what's going on outside in the scamdemic, like if you just take it on the microcosm,
totally,
that's fucking rad.
Yeah, I think just in general, you know, it's really, if you really zoom out and if I look at my life in particular, and I've heard this true about a lot of people, like maybe you can relate too, but just ever since this time last year, my life, I've thrived harder this last year than I ever have in my life, you know, beyond, you know, I don't know, like just in terms of like, I mean, the Truthzilla podcast was built, or just grew up out of, you know, our questioning the COVID thing, really. You know, if it hadn't been for COVID, there's probably no chance we would have done that, you know? So, I mean, between that and like my professional life, you know, I way better job than, you know, I don't know, I got some certifications, and, you know, I'm doing something now that I really enjoy, even though I'm surrounded by maskies all day, which is really, really hard. And they're just pushing the vaccine so hard, dude. It's so hard. But anyway, but overall, you know, I don't think that I've ever had a better year despite all the misery and the darkness and just the frustration and the unknown, the fear of the unknown and uncertainty has unfolded, you know. I don't know. I'm pretty grateful, honestly.
Yeah, I feel the same way about that. I felt like I had like 14 ego deaths right on the edge of a cliff, just waiting for years. Like I had one, or maybe after my dad died, I really didn't. And it took a couple years, and then my cat died. And then it was like, I felt everything from my dad's death. It was just like this whole waterfall. And then I was like, I refuse to feel like I'm going to turn off my heart, and became some other kind of just very logical thinking being. And so it was like, it didn't matter. The ego deaths are going to happen. They're just waiting there. And I did DMT like on 12/20. And then it was just like, one after the other, and I was seeing myself just in the projection of everybody else. It was almost like impossible. It was anything I wasn't liking about anyone else. It was totally myself, but it was just impossible to not see it in myself. And it was becoming, it was like I had to go through all this to figure out what kind of talk I wanted to do and like be here now. So I kind of feel the same way. It was it was one of the hardest years of my life. But like an obstacle course. I'm so fucking grateful for it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's one of my reservations when it comes to substance use is like, I never tried DMT. Fuck. Yeah. So
if you were to ever do it one day and not to ever put it into drug form, it would have to be so ritual for you. The shaman, it couldn't be in a powder form synthetically. It would have to be the full purge.
The ayahuasca deal.
Yeah, you'd have to do the full ayahuasca.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just always in the back of my mind. It's like, darn it.
It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means it's not, because I've done it twice, or I say 2.5 times, because I am such a control freak. I had to sample it before the first time I did it to kind of know what I was getting into. And I never spiritually prepped for a drug before. I felt like that was my first time that everything shifted, where I knew what I was getting into. I read so much about it, the logic in me. Thought I was prepared for what I was about to experience. And my first time, it was super kind to me. I felt like it was so kind that the second time I did it was so impromptu, and I asked for it. I was like, I don't want to fuck around. Like, I even asked for it in the middle of my trip, and I felt like it gave me way more than my logic can handle. And I've had people be like, when do you think you're going to do DMT again? And I'm like, when it asks me to. Like, it'll tell me the same way it did, and it took me 1 decade to do it the second time. So I'm like, it might be another decade before I but I've tried all the drugs. Except I'm starting to hear about ones I haven't. So it's like salvia. I've never tried salvia.
I've done salvia. That's an interesting one.
DMT is so different. I've had people explain it to me, and I'm like, nope. It's not like everything I witnessed with salvia. It sounds terrifying. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like terrifying. I mean, I don't know. It's been a long time, but it just seemed like it was just like.
Did you do mushrooms?
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of mushrooms. That was my go-to.
In terms of like had ego deaths and spiritual experiences on drugs.
Oh yeah. I've done acid. I've done probably the most intense ones. Have definitely been on mushrooms, psilocybin, definitely. So.
It's been a while. I don't know how long it'll be before I do a heroic dose of anything again.
Yeah.
So I have so much respect for everything, and not that I didn't before. I'm totally into the microdosing idea of like flirting with Mother Nature a little and going camping. But
you know, I'm just seeking it naturally. You know, I don't know. I get there.
I'm finding a real high in sobriety. I definitely drink less than I ever have in my whole life, where it's like, you know, months of time go by without alcohol, or, you know, good weeks. I do love marijuana and maybe smoke that too much, but I'm trying to even keep where I'm quit smoking weed for a few weeks and quit, smoking my e-cigarette for a few weeks and quit. Like, I just feel like I need a constant quit eating meat for a few weeks. And
there you go. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm on 3 weeks today. No nicotine, 0. Cut it all out. 100%. Bam. Done.
I have this stupid e-cigarette that I quit smoking real cigarettes and started smoking this. Yeah. And I want to smoke. My Jamaican friends smoke spliffs, like where they'll.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, what if I went through a ritual and rolled my own cigarettes? Like,
Maybe.
See,
perhaps.
You're so good. You're like, no, I'm not doing anything. I'm pure.
No. I mean, I quit smoking cigarettes back in 2018, and I've been vaping, but I went for a jog and I was like, feeling awful. Just not like smoker's cough, because like smoker's cough is all right, because you can like actually hack up some black shit and like, but like vapor's cough, it's like
yucky.
It's just like it's like that still that that congestion, but there's nothing coming out. It's just like, oh man, my lungs are just freaking like cotton candy, dude. Like, oh my God.
Do you do like breathing techniques, like Wim Hof or yoga, where you get into this like headspace or meditation?
No, I need to. My meditation practice has been diminished quite a bit lately. You know, I was into it for a while, but man, it's actually part of the steps, honestly.
Oh, what's the next step?
Okay. So we did 6 and 7, which is your character defects, which is identifying them and then turning them over. And then steps 8 and 9 kind of go together, which are 8 is you write down a list of all the people you've harmed. And then step 9 is you go and you make direct amends to those people, except when to do so would injure them or other people, right? So you go back again to your 4th step, all the transgressions you've ever done, and you pull out all the people that you caused harm to. And so you write it all down as if there is no 9th step, as if you're not, you don't worry about making the amend. You still have to write down that person, even if it's the most terrifying thing that you ever have to do, actually going up to that person and being like, hey, I'm sorry. You still have to write it down. And then you go over it with your sponsor, and then you decide whether or not you're going to make that amend. You know what I mean? So a lot of times you can't make an amend, and, because it would either cause harm to that person by stirring up the past, or, just for whatever reason. There's a million reasons. So, we do what's called living amends. So that way I just live my life in such a way that, first of all, I'm not causing any more harm. I'm not repeating that behavior, and I'm putting more positive energy in the world than I'm taking out. So the idea of a living amend is just, that's something that's really important to me, because in my steps, the majority of mine are living amends, honestly. So it's important to me to put more positivity in the world, So that's 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12 kind of go together. 10, 11, 12, they call the maintenance steps, because you've done up until this point 1 through 9, and you've done some serious work, and you're a completely different person at this point.
Are you better at apologizing now because of that, or do you?
Totally.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it is kind of like something you get better at doing if
Totally.
you practice it.
Yeah, because here's the thing: is like, so you've gotten through step 9, you've apologized, and you've tried to clear up your side of the street for all the bad stuff you've done, and so now it's just a matter of just not causing any more harm. So step 10 is you do a daily inventory, and look at your day, and where you were wrong, you promptly admit it. And so that means if you look back at your day and you realize that there was an amend that you need to make, then you immediately go make that amend. Like, for whatever reason, even the smallest thing, like, hey man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like I kind of was kind of snarky when I was talking to you yesterday. They're like, oh, they're cool, don't worry about it. Okay, cool. It's just, you just clear your side of the street immediately. Bam, 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 every time. You know what I mean? So it doesn't fester, and you don't have this long list of people that you've burnt over the years. You know what I mean? Like, it's just bam, you just fix it right then and there. And you look at where were you fearful? Where were you dishonest? Stuff like that. So you just kind of reevaluate your day and just try and do better, or, maybe you did good, I don't know. And then steps 11 is sought through prayer and meditation to improve your conscious contact with God as you understand God, basically. So so literally, in the steps, it tells you to improve your conscious contact with your higher power through prayer and meditation. So it's like, okay, interesting. So there's a lot there.
When was the last
so
time
whatever
you prayed?
Usually it's I'm not gonna say today, but it's been within the last few days. I try to remember to do it in the morning. I have just a basic thing, and it's really just, how can I be for this, this type of prayer? It's how can I be useful to the still suffering addict? That's my thing. How can I be useful? I don't know. Just show me how to be useful.
That's a good mantra.
Yeah. And then steps 12 is, and this is kind of cool that I like to point out to people. Step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to other addicts, alcoholics, whatever, and to practice these principles in all my affairs. So what it's saying there is, it's saying literally, it's promising you, having worked these steps, you will have a spiritual awakening, an awakening of the spirit. So it's promising you that at the end, which is pretty damn true. There's so many spiritual awakenings along the way, but I think the biggest spiritual awakening is sharing it with other people. So you take what's been given to you, and then you share it with others. And I don't know if anybody listening to this, I probably, there's a good segment of the people like, oh, this guy's full of shit, fuck 12 steps, fuck that, but whatever, whatever, I don't know. I think there's some validity to it outside any sort of substance use, like I said, and I think a lot of it, the 12th step, just seeing how you can be useful to others, and to practice these principles. That's the thing. It's like trying to do the right thing when nobody's looking type of thing. It's not always easy. And that's one thing I've found is that, like, usually the easy way out, like the shortcut, involves some sort of like dishonesty, manipulation, all that stuff. So usually the right thing is the thing that takes just a little bit more effort to do. You know what I mean? But over time, I think if you have enough of those right decisions in a row, then you're gonna find yourself in this life that's pretty damn cool. I don't know.
I know, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
In the world, like, of the people I know, and like my brother, for example, like, he's had a very similar path to yours. His was just in Florida. I know it's a plague everywhere, but here specifically, the opioid epidemic was insane. It's like there's too many grannies down here and too many medicine cabinets. So it just, once it got its teeth in all the people I love, I mean, I have good friends and neighbors and family members, everyone, everyone. It was just, if I felt like sexist about it, to be sexist about it, all the ladies I know in my life got it. And the clutches in them were the Xanax, the Wellbutrins, those kind of things. And for the men in my life, it was the opioids, and then somewhere it crossed in between. But a lot of the people that I care about, they had to serve time, and they served their time. They did their wrong. They made their amends. But there's something, I still feel it on some of them, where they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want their opinion, even though it's as valid as my opinion. There's still a part of them that feels like, I don't know if it's that their freedom's going to be taken, so they don't want to rock the boat too bad, or that their opinion's not as valid because somewhere they fucked up in society. Do you feel that way, or?
Not really. I mean, I think just literally working the restorative process that I kind of described in the steps, like, has led me to a place where it's like, no, I'm not a bad person. I'm not invalid. I'm not, in fact, I'm quite the opposite, and so, no, in fact, it's probably emboldened me to maybe to something that could be considered a character defect. I don't even know. Who knows? Like, I wouldn't have the confidence to say what I say. I wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for the work that I've done as far as that stuff goes. So I don't know. It might end up getting me freaking Michael Hastings or something one of these days, or freaking who knows. But
that's
what I mean by that.
Woke moment. Were you woke before prison, or prison make you woke, or?
Well, it's funny because, like, I was definitely
the word woke. I feel like that's.
No, I know. We got to come up with a different one. We got to come up with a good one. I don't know. I was definitely always questioning of stuff. I shouldn't say always. I would say, like, through the Bush years, I was very much like, yeah, go get those terrorists. We got to get those terrorists, man. They hate our freedom type stuff. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I was like hook, line, and sinker into that.
The 9/11 of it all.
9/11. Yeah. Oh yeah. And but I think that was Tower 7. I don't know when the hell that was. That must have been like 2010, 2011, something like that, maybe. Like, first hearing about Tower 7. Like, wait a minute, what? I don't know exactly when, but I remember that being a very big red pill moment. And I remember watching the what was it, September 11th, the new Pearl Harbor, back in the day, which was kind of crazy. I was just on the Union with freaking Massimo Mazzucco, I think it was, the guy who made that movie, just the other day. It was kind of a trip.
I watched you guys.
Yeah. You should have hopped on, dude.
I sometimes just love being a fan of people that I also consider friends, and feel like we're all in this like community where it's different than being, and this isn't egoic at all, it's totally different than being a famous person, because I know people with a lot fucking bigger platforms than I ever been on that just go out of their way to be a part of the community, be awesome to the community, and then are like you right now being on my show or other guests that are like, of course I'll do it. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I just think it's so awesome.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel to people that like listening to me, that I'm like, start something. Of course I'll do it. And that's what I feel like when I get to watch you on someone that I've been watching, you know, different people on there that I've been watching for years, like Burmis, you know, and whatever people that you know, have been in this thing for decades. And I watch you on there too. It makes me, it's inspiring. And I just like to sip. And Lindsay, like, I'm like, look, I know Scott and Lindsay, and it's like all these people that I just think like all on the same screen. I love just sitting back and watching sometimes.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, it is a trip. You know, we've had a lot of people reach out to us, and I'm really like, it's just a bummer. Our limitation is that there's 3 of us, right? So we have such a limited schedule when we can all get together and record. And we've had many conversations about this. Like, we feel like, you know, it's important for Truthzilla to be Truthzilla, and Truthzilla is Megan, Scott, and Ed. You know, Megan's been recuperating from, you know, her concussion, you know what I mean? And it's like, so she's been sitting out periodically, but like, still, like, you know, there's all these people that have been reaching out, like new podcasts, and like, dude, I got you on the list. I promise we're gonna get you. We're gonna do an episode, dude. I promise. You know what I mean? Because that's the same love we got. Like Ricky Verandis. Like, man, oh man, I got so much love and respect for Ricky. He just kind of like, we reached out like early on with just some questions, really, some technical questions. Like, God, what kind of like how do I hook with the mics up? You know, like stuff like that, like stupid shit. Like, I couldn't get a clear answer on like searching it, and so like he was just so friendly and so helpful. And then like early on, like I think it was like episode 7, we had Ricky on, and he was just like, yeah, you guys come on the Union. I'm like, what? Hold on, what? And then that kind of just opened up so many doors, dude. It's been a trip. So
I know. I really had an out of body sitting in the Union with like looking at the screen of people that were on it. Like, you're there next to me in a box, and then like Dr. Judy Mikovits is there. And like,
what the hell?
Like, what is happening? Sam's in and out, and then it's like people that I've seen in person are on the screen. I don't know. It's just a crazy world we're living in, and I also feel like it's the real news. Like, we're doing the job that should be happening on all the CNN, MSNBC, Fox News talking heads, but we're doing it. It used to be, the news was never, it used to be what we're doing, used to be the news. No, this is what it always should have been. Just open-minded people asking questions, you know, like, let's just break down these. Guess what? It's okay if we all change our opinion, or it's even okay if you give me more information right now and I change my opinion right now, or I'm like, I'm going to sit on that. Like, it's
100%.
just like, there is so much weird ego even in our community, but I definitely found, like, because of 2020 and us being at an end game where everybody feels like, all right, we're here, you guys, that it doesn't matter if you're Christian with Mark of the Beast, or if you're a total atheist and you just want to talk about like the Federal Reserve, or if you're just a Buddhist that just wants to talk about love and light, we're here now. And it's like kind of amazing to see. I don't know, for me, like, I'm a fan of you guys, but I also remember when you guys started. But then I also love how somebody like Sam Tripoli is, that's, you know, how do we all find each other without Sam?
Yeah, exactly. Got so much love and respect for Sam, dude. Oh my God. That's crazy.
I know. I could just go on and just tout off of how all these people, and I also like that you're here alone. I know you guys are Truthzilla, the 3 of you together. And one of the great things about all these podcasts is I think what you guys each bring to Truthzilla is so special that I want my audience to get to know you guys all a little bit separately, of why the show's so fucking rad, and like the kind of people behind these shows that, like, this is why this show's special. This is, you know, and even people maybe that don't have shows. I want to have people on that are doing all sorts of shit in the real world to make it better.
I'll tell you what, that's kind of a life hack. That's what I was telling you. Like the people I've met through Freedom Cells, some of the most amazing people ever. And they've been some of our recent, like, biggest, heaviest hitting episodes. We had a gal who goes by Zoe, who's a, you know, medical insider a few episodes back, just called Medical Insider, dude. She dropped some serious bombs, dude. I keep meaning to like cut that episode up into like little 10-minute chunks, because she's dropping some serious shit, dude. like cutting breaking news stuff. Like I thought it was gonna go like InfoWars level viral, but like because it's literally like she's talking about the PCR tests. God, I need to go back and review what she was saying. It was just so mind blowing. But like it's something very much to do with the PCR tests and how like the tests nowadays, like they're all combined, like flu, influenza A, B, pneumonia, COVID, and it's all in one test, and each one of them is coming back, every single one, COVID, 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 exclusively, period, without exception. The ones that are coming back positive are coming back COVID without exception, and that's why we're seeing 0 flu cases, no pneumonia cases, because they're all in the same freaking test, and it almost leads you to believe that like these are like prepackaged, like they come from the factory with COVID on them or something that will indicate COVID. It's just insane. She talks about like all the adverse events are like, 'cause she's a coder, so she's seeing the inside about how these things are being coded. You know what I mean? Like it's insane. Very whistleblower type stuff. I encourage everyone to go check that episode out. But like these are people we just met in Freedom Cells, people that don't have shows, people that are just kind of just low key. You know, yeah, that's definitely a good place to go with your show, Cheney. Like, man, like you got to get involved.
Grateful. Like there's so many brilliant people that and just people that I adore, that I think if we do it like this, we're not live, there isn't an audience, it's just you and me. There's no cold feet. You're gonna have plenty of time. If you're like, don't air it, I don't want it, I'm sick about it, all that, I don't think anyone will. But I also want to be like, first dance with me. Like it'll be nice and easy, because I know so many amazing people with shit to say that I'm like, once you do this with me, like the same as your show, you have a good guest and all of a sudden 10 podcasts are like, I want you. I want you. I want you. It's like we're all in this network now. Like I could think of 30 people to tell you guys, like, you guys need to get it. But if you look at each one of those, everybody's their own little web and their own little network of friends that like I found, you know, Deborah gets red pilled through you. But I found you guys through Sam. And it's like this little thing that, and then I found, you know, you tell me 3 other podcasts that you're like, no, these are my homies. And I'm like, I love that.
Yeah, Dean Reiner. You got to get Dean Reiner. Are you familiar with him? The Up is Down podcast?
No.
Dude, you got to check out the Up is Down podcast. Well, some of the best ones on there. We just had him on. He was just on our episode last week, I think. Yeah, last Sunday just came out. So that was his second time on our show. But he's from Portland. We met him. How did we meet him? Oh, on the Union of the Unwanted. And we all got to chat in the chat channel. I was like, whoa, you guys are in Eugene. I'm in Portland. So anyway, we ended up going to a comedy show back in August and met him up there. You know, JP Sears?
No.
You probably recognize JP Sears. He's like the long red-haired, muscular guy on like YouTube that makes all like the kind of sarcastic, funny, like you'd probably recognize him by face. Yeah. But anyway, he was doing a comedy show up there. We met Dean up there, but you got to check out the Up is Down podcast. It's so legit. Like he has, I think, episodes 35 through 38. He does this whole like expose of like Tracy Twyman and targeted individuals, gang stalking.
Okay.
Holy shit. It's a mind blower, dude.
I love it. I'm gonna actually try to be good with this show too on Instagram and put everything we talk about in show notes. So when I find the links, I'll be encouraged to look at them all too. Yeah,
totally. And Tracy Twyman, have you ever gone down that rabbit hole before?
I love I love rabbit holes.
Check out Tracy Twyman. That is quite. So she was up in our neck of the woods, like in Portland. I know she was a producer on Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis, which is kind of a big show out of Portland. It's like just an AM terrestrial radio show, but he goes like 4 hours every night, like 5 nights a week, just talking about like, you know, black-eyed children and
old school Art Bell shit. I love that.
Yeah, old school Art Bell show. Yeah, totally, completely. And anyway, so she was a producer on there, but she, very interesting lady, you know. She you know, I think that her journey took her all different places. I know that she was very much towards, so she actually died, I think 2019, I want to say 2000, maybe 2018, somewhere around there between, I can't remember the exact date. I remember when it happened though. I remember hearing about it when I was working on a different podcast. But anyway, her path kind of took her to like channeling entities, like literally channeling entities, and she has these very vivid, intense accounts of like her like interfacing with Baphomet, like literally, and it is insane. She's got some crazy stories as far as that goes, and she wrote several books on it. Very profound, and like she's very well known in like certain circles. But towards the end there, I know she was doing some deep, serious investigations into child trafficking. And she apparently had uncovered some really insane stuff, and that she was all of a sudden the target of just this massive like gang stalking operation where people were just coming after her. She was very public about it, talking about how she even like implicated like Greg Carlwood from the Higher Side Chats, which is kind of a crazy, like there was a kind of a crazy thing that happened there. um not necessarily him, but like somebody that was associated with him apparently was coming after her, or someone claiming to be the person associated with Greg Carlwood was coming after her. And just like serious death threats, and just like people like infiltrating all of her devices, and like it's just like she's talking about how like entire fabrication, like the whole, like all of the internet could be some like, dude, there's like there could be people that aren't woke, people that have never taken a red pill in their life would hear what she's saying and would be like this woman's insane, like schizophrenia, like type stuff. But it's like no, 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 no. I believe every damn word she says. You know what I'm saying? Like just insane stuff. And
Some
ultimately,
of the people that they've called crazy, I think some of these words, it's like how we're saying woke isn't the right word anymore. It's like some of these blanket words like frantic and crazy and, lunatic and whatever. It's just blanket, so no one asks questions anymore. They become...
Sorry.
No worries. They become like no one wants to be labeled crazy. No one wants to be Baker acted. Like no one wants to be taken out of their freedom. So it's like, stay on your hamster wheel. Don't ask any questions. And I think normal, whatever the normal is that we're told this is, with masks and bullshit and shutting your business down and losing your livelihood and not seeing your grandmother and not going to prom, that's crazy. So that's what's led me to the point that I want to hear what all the people that have been labeled crazy really have to fucking say. I want to hear what they have to say.
So check out Up is Down podcast, like episodes 35 I think through 38, and it's in Tracy's own words. He does a lot of like her own video or her own audio recordings of her describing the situation and all the stuff like leading up to her death. Apparently she was found like hanging, and there hasn't been, even to this day, much information released about it.
Is it red scarf hanging by any?
Not red scarf. I know exactly what you mean. But no, and I mean, maybe, who knows, honestly. Like, I don't think details like that have been released, but he does this amazing, like, not only like the first couple episodes are just her in her own words describing the situation, and then it turns into like a series on the phenomenon of gang stalking, and people like whistleblowers who worked for this company up in Seattle, who this company that did like gang stalking stuff, like or who does gang stalking and electronic surveillance, and just all the means and methods that they have to electronically harass people, and just it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
And it's insane because if you try to explain it to people, it makes you sound insane. And an easy way I try to explain it to like my normal friends with gang stalking is, imagine pulling your curtain aside and there's 20 men in suits standing in your yard, just in suits staring at your yard. And when you pick up your phone to call the cops, you pull your curtain again to count them, because the cops are like, how many men, ma'am? And you pull it back, they're all gone. That's what gang stalking is. It's just enough that you sound like a lunatic. It's
totally.
Such a weird, where you even question your own sanity, where you're
totally.
Like, what, the CIA's hunting me? Like, what, Hillary Clinton's in my yard? Maybe.
Maybe. Well, we talked to Tina Marie from LearnTheRisk.org. So Tina Marie's friends with Brandy Vaughn, who started Learn the Risk, and she was the...
Rest in peace, Brandy Vaughn.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if people aren't familiar with her story, but like all the events leading up to her demise too, her on camera like describing the type of stalking that was happening with her. They were like coming into her house and like rearranging things and like leaving her laptop like in the middle of her kitchen floor. Like she had her laptop hidden. She said it was like she hid it on top of the microwave, like where, because the microwave down by your knees. And so she would hide it on top of that. So you would have to like literally get down at like knee level to look and see that the laptop was hidden there. And then somebody had found it and they put it in the middle of the kitchen floor, right? And stuff like that. And then how she would say to her friends that, I feel like I'm a sitting duck. And then she came home and there was like a stuffed duck like sitting on her back porch or something like that, like stuff like. And then her ladders moved underneath like bedroom windows and just left there, stuff like that. Like, dude,
just enough to make you like feel so crazy, so stalked and powerless. Like to let somebody let you know they're in your house. They know where everything you keep, where it's at. Like you don't have there's no privacy or security, safety, like all those things that the illusions that we all are begging to live under to lose our freedom. But it's crazy that people that are trying to help the world are actually losing these things on a regular basis. And no one believes them.
No one believes them.
And they all have a story that they call someone, if I die, I'm not suicidal. They all have these stories where they call a few friends, like if something happens to me, I'm not away. And so I don't leave it dark. What's your favorite conspiracy? Like if you see something on it, do you have like something nerdy? Like I geek out on like time travel, anything with the Titanic, Antarctica. Like I have nerdy ones that I get down with, and I secretly kind of love the giant tree, mud flood idea. Like I just love the Devil's Tower. Theory.
Yes, the Tartaria and the gigantic tree. Yes, absolutely. So I would say mine, I don't know, just in terms of just the overall just whimsical nature of it. I love Tesla. I love the War of the Currents, right? JP Morgan. Have you gone down that whole rabbit hole at all?
When you said currents just then, it made me think of electrical currents, and I was like, oh my gosh, tell me about it.
Okay, this is great. All right, so the War of the Currents, and there's so much. There's time travel. There's everything. There's everything in this story. So, we grow up, elementary school, whatever, we learned that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. And Thomas Edison, genius scientist, right? I don't even remember. I was probably in my 20s, maybe 30s before I even learned that or heard about Tesla. Most people probably only think Tesla is a car company. Probably never even heard of Nikola Tesla. So apparently Nikola Tesla, Serbian immigrant, I think. I don't know. But he worked as an apprentice to Thomas Edison. So they kind of had, an overlap there, and he ventured off on his own, Tesla did, and they kind of became enemies. I think Edison noticed that he was a threat, a threat to what he had going on. Now, Edison was financially backed by JP Morgan, right? So automatically we're like, okay, that's there's red flags going off already. And Tesla there was a gentleman named Westinghouse, I believe was his name, that financed him. And there's like rumors that like the stock market crash of 1907 was literally orchestrated to put Westinghouse out of business, to like put Edison on top and take Tesla out. There's that conspiracy. But so this was what they call the War of the Currents, because this is when like the United States infrastructure was just coming about, and they were trying to figure out, what type of energy they were going to roll out to power the whole United States, right? Edison's idea was DC power, right? And Tesla's idea was AC power. And so they were like, okay, we're going to go AC or DC. So Edison's DC power, it would require each household to have like a gigantic battery in it. And they were really heavily, like JP Morgan was heavily invested in copper. And I think that Tesla or Edison's devices would require lots and lots and lots of copper. So that was advantageous to them to do that. So each house would have to have a battery center, which they were testing it out. And like very, very rich people would have little battery centers put in their home, but they were super loud. and then they would like catch the houses on fire. You know what I mean? And so they had to like put the battery like way far away from the house, and people were like, this is stupid.
Like a smart
Tesla's
meter.
like, yeah, pretty much exactly like a smart meter. Exactly. It's like, yeah, early 20th century smart meters, right? But Tesla's idea was AC power, having like a central power station, and then you run it using transformers through like power lines. So, you know, spoiler alert, today we have AC power, Tesla's idea. You know what I mean?
Oh, wait, opposite.
No, AC. No, it's AC
Oh,
power.
it's AC.
No. Yep. Alternating current is what we currently have. So Tesla's technology actually was adopted by the United States, and the world, you know what I mean? But back in the day, like it was such a contentious thing. Like, and so the other cool thing is that Tesla was like friends with Mark Twain. So there's all these, and Tesla was always tinkering, like making all these cool little inventions and stuff like that. And he had like a brown note machine, you know what I mean? And like, there's this famous story of Mark Twain hanging out with Tesla in his little lab, and like he pushed the button and
brown note?
Okay, I don't know what the brown note is specifically, what decibel it is, but it's like something that like
I'm gonna
gargles
play
your
it right
guts.
here on the show.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
It gargles your guts and makes you shit your pants, right? And so that's that. Like, there's a famous story of like of Tesla experimenting with that machine and Mark Twain shitting his pants in his laboratory, right? So it's just like, imagine how cool that would be, just hanging out with like Mark Twain and Nikola Tesla in his fucking lab with like lightning flying across the rooms.
It
So
seems
it's
total traveling Wilburys.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. It's amazing. So anyway, Edison and JP Morgan, these evil bastards, right? They were trying to discredit Tesla and his technology. And so what they did is they did this big exposition where they brought all these animals and they started electrocuting them using these AC currents. They were electrocuting and killing these animals. And I can't remember, I think it's like Tusky or something like that. You can find it on YouTube, footage of Thomas Edison electrocuting a full-grown elephant to death using Tesla's technology, saying, look how dangerous it is. You can kill full-grown elephants with it, right? That's how diabolical they were taking it, right? So as the story goes, the story I heard is that Tesla, to disprove that and to show that it actually isn't that dangerous, he came up with this thing where, you know, you see like the little coils are called Tesla coils, right? He built this thing where he stood on top of a Tesla coil and like figured out how much current you could run through the human body without it actually causing any damage. And he put on these little metal gloves, like metal, like, you know, chainmail type gloves. And he had like little ball receivers, like, you know, like those little globes, those glass globes with like the electrical currents that you like touch, and the electrical current will come fly and touch your finger. You know what I'm saying? It's like a snow globe with like
from
a little
Spencer's Gifts.
Yeah, like with little lightning bolts that go around. Yeah, that's exactly it. So he had like one of those types of devices where he stood on it and like through his metal gloves, like shot lightning bolts through his fingers into the little globe in the ceiling, right? And so that's how the story goes. Like, not only is it not dangerous, but watch this, and just shooting lightning out of his hands. You know what I mean? Like a badass, right? So, you know, as it continued to go down, like he had all these different inventions, all these different miraculous things. Some people say he even unlocked the secrets of time travel, right? Who knows? He did have this technology where he could figure out how to charge the ionosphere and give the entire world free electricity. He figured out how to do it, supposedly. And no government would back it. No government would fund this project. Obviously, right? Conflict of interest. Even back then, I'm sure the oil tycoons were way too powerful, right? So what he did is he built these plans for a death ray. And what he wanted to do is go around to some government, like, no, you know, the United States didn't want it. So he was going around trying to sell his death ray to a different government in order to fund his own project to charge the ionosphere. He was just going to do it just to give the world free energy. That was his like life goal, right? And so he built this death ray in the hopes of achieving that, right? So anyway, nobody would buy it, and he ended up dying alone in a hotel. You know, he was never, people say like he was celibate his whole life because he never wanted to. He didn't have time to do anything other than just his research and his inventions, right? And he had a very strong affinity for pigeons, though. So he was very much in love with the pigeons. But that was pretty, you know, he just died a lonely man in a hotel in New York. And he had trunks and trunks and trunks full of research. Like I heard like some people say like 80 trunks like full of just notebook papers and all these designs and all this brilliant stuff over the course of his whole life. And when he died, the United States government hired somebody to go in and confiscate all that stuff. Do you know this part of the story?
Yeah, you can finish it though.
Okay, yeah. So the United States government came in and confiscated all this stuff, and they hired somebody to go through all of it. And that person was a famous professor at MIT whose name was John Trump, who's Donald Trump's uncle. But so, as the story goes, right? The Trump family has always had Tesla's secrets of time travel, and as evidenced by the Ingersoll Lockwood story novel from like the late 1800s called "The Last President," who the main character in one of those stories is named Baron Trump. So there you go.
Yeah, and it's there's so many things other than the Baron Trump one, and just that story alone. I think like I think it was like John Astor, like he was gonna back Tesla's energy, and he was also the number one person that was like opposed to the Federal Reserve. So he was like gonna have this big meeting at Jekyll Island with JP Morgan. But before this, all these people were gonna celebrate JP Morgan's new sailing of his new boat, the Titanic. So all these dudes that were backing Tesla's free energy got on that boat, and then they didn't have the right flares, the women and children first. They didn't have enough lifeboats to make sure certain dudes didn't get off that boat. So it was really it's so crazy to take all those conspiracies and then, like you said, the copper thing, which isn't really the most conductive metal, but it was the cheapest conductive metal they can use. That it was really JP Morgan, another thing he had a ton of investment in. So it's like every time I look at wires across any sky, it triggers me. It's like that's the number one thing about the energy. The biggest, it's not even the oil to me, it's the wires. Like all through our house, all through our, and they're trying to put the metal in our deodorant, the metal in our teeth, and the metal in our wires. It's like, what is all this metal surrounding us all the time? It's such, and it's just everything's electricity and everything's energy. That's totally something I get high on, and the time travel of it all.
Love it. Love it.
Okay, I've loved talking to you. I won't keep you forever. You are so awesome to hang out with me, even though there was technical difficulties. And
all right,
what do you want to plug before you go?
Just find the Truthzilla trio. I'd say the best place would be on Rockbin, rockbin.com/Truthzilla. We got 2 strikes on YouTube last week, and they're coming for us hard, so we won't be there very much longer. We're on all your podcast platforms. We got some big things coming up. You can follow us on Instagram. We're always just dropping memes all day long, you know what I mean? And Truthzilla.org. So when in doubt, if we disappear from wherever you're used to hearing from us, go to Truthzilla.org and we will be there.
It is. It's so love, light, and Truthzilla.
It really is. And I got to also say, if you want to get a badass Truthzilla shirt, Truthzilla.org/shirts, one of which, my favorite, was designed by Cheney here. It's got a little emblem on the front that says, "Ever wondered if you would have complied in 1930s Germany? Well, now you know," with a nice little mask on. So thank you for that again, Cheney. I think that's been our number one seller by far.
Oh, you guys are so awesome, and I love all of you, and I love what you do, and thank you for actually being my first male guest.
Yay! Awesome. Well, thank you. It's been a real honor, Cheney. You're the best, and we'll definitely have you back here soon, okay?
I love it. Thank you for being here, and we will talk soon.
Woo-hoo. All right.
Bye,
Peace.
Scott.
Good night. Bye-bye. Yeah.
So she has been Cheney, and now she's off to smoke a blunt. See you next Tuesday, you fucking cunts.
Honestly, I don't know. I think it's been a very serendipitous journey, and I feel like, man, I don't know if I would change anything, honestly. It's crazy.